Tatiana O'Hara. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I'm an agency and team operations coach. And so essentially what that means is I help entrepreneurs begin to build their teams so that they can scale their businesses without having to do everything, right? So I got my start in corporate as a district manager for a popular grocery chain. And during my time there, I was managing 5 really high sales volume stores. I was directly leading my team so that we could essentially get a better result. I did a lot of hiring and I did a lot of streamlining operations. And so now I am bringing that expertise over to the world of entrepreneurship. And I want to share a little bit of that with you here today. So whether you are a Dubsado setup specialist or you're just a general service provider, this information is going to be outstanding for you to be able to take and leverage into building a team in the future. So let's get started. All right, let's talk about how to leverage a team so that you can scale your business. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to craft our CEO vision. Before we can begin to talk about the support that we need on our team, before we can begin to talk about what our offers need to look like, we need to be clear on what we want, right? So here are a couple of the questions that you can ask yourself. And I want you to kind of put yourself in the role of maybe 3 years from now, a year from now, whatever the case is. And this is your ideal week in business, right? So I want you to kind of paint this picture in your head. So 1, how many hours do you work in a given week? What does that look like for you? I know that in my vision, I don't work on Fridays and my days are fairly short, right? 4 to 5 hours. So that puts me at about 20 hours per week. The second question is, where are you working from? So I want you to visualize, where is your office? Are you living where you live now? Do you have a co-working space that you work out of? Do you have a beautiful home office? Next, I want you to think about how many people are on your team. So this isn't a literal question, but this is going to kind of speak more to the size of the business that you want to grow, right? Because a lot of times we have this vision of having, 7, 8-figure business, but we also see ourselves having, 3 people on our team. And so if that's misaligned, then we can kind of address it from there. So thinking through how many people are on your team, I know for me, I want to keep a fairly small team, less than 10 people, so that it can remain intimate. This next question is super important. What do you do day in and day out? What are the tasks that only you can do in your business? Only the tasks that you want to do in your business, because this is also going to give us a framework for who we need to hire on our team. A lot of times what this looks like is I just want to talk to my clients, be public on our social media channels and do some outreach and, grow the community. And so what this tells me is, okay, well, maybe that means you don't want anything to do with the fulfillment process. And I think sometimes that could be a no-brainer, but sometimes things that we don't think about are like sales, right? Who takes care of sales on the team? So asking yourself this question can be really revealing, because you can begin to realize that there's actually quite a few things that we could delegate outside of the norm of, someone to check the emails and whatnot. Next question is, how much revenue does your company bring in? So this is where I want you to think about not just the company, but also you, right? What do you want to be able to take home for yourself? And I want you to think big here. I want you to think past, I'm only able to make this much per month right now. This is my limit. I want you to think, if there were no, limits on what was possible, what would that look like for you? And then lastly, what kind of impact do you create? So this is going to help you even begin to identify some of your core values, so that you can begin to make sure that the people that you hire onto your team set you up to be able to actually achieve this impact. So why is this important, right? So first, when you are clear on your vision, you're going to know where you're going. You know exactly where you're driving this car to, where you're steering the ship to, right? And when you know where you're going, you can lead other people there. Think about a time where you've had a client who wanted you to set up maybe their Dubsado for them, but they weren't really clear on anything. They didn't really understand their business model. And so it kind of was beyond you, right? You ask all the questions that you have to help them map out their processes, but we really couldn't take them where they needed to be. But that's because they aren't clear on their vision. And so we want to have that clarity so that we don't provide that same confusion to our team members. Then you can craft offers around this vision, which is super important. And we're going to talk about a little bit later. The different services that you decide to offer within your business, they need to be in alignment with the vision. Otherwise, it's not going to feel good. It becomes your moral compass for all decisions moving forward. So this is a big one as well, because you're going to know what to say yes to, right? What to say no to when you're really clear on that vision. The key to having a scalable business is having a scalable foundation, right? So this sounds like a no-brainer, but this is something that entrepreneurs are often missing. So here are two things that you're going to want to consider as you are beginning to map out what you want your team to look like. So one, we need to have scalable offers, right? So if let's take the example of being a Dubsado setup specialist, ask yourself, how many customers or clients can I serve with this offer currently? And would hiring someone help? So sometimes we've pigeonholed ourselves into offers where we are the only person who can deliver that, right? So we want to make sure that we're positioning our offers in a way that we can easily identify what the steps are, and we could train someone else to be able to help us as well, because that's going to increase that overall capacity. The second thing that you want to look at is your operations. So do you have systems and processes in place to help your ops run smoother? Now, I want you to not even think about Dubsado, right? I don't even want you to think about workflows right now. I want you to think about back to, Stone Ages, A to Z. How do we get a client from interested in working with us all the way to the offboarding process? We have to be able to clearly articulate what that looks like. And when we can, then we can use tools like Dubsado to map that out for us, right? But when we're not clear on the overall system to begin with, it's going to be much harder to plug that into something. So these are the two things that you're going to want to consider as you're beginning to scale your business. We want to make it easy for people to work with us. This is a really, really big thing, right? So how can you basically make yourself more appealing, more attractive as a service provider? So one, we want to have clear timelines. When people come to work with us, they want to know exactly when things are going to be done, when they can expect to be onboarded, offboarded, get the deliverables, so on and so forth. We want to have a clear process. So having the clear process is going to also help us scale, because now we're on rinse and repeat, right? This is something that we can easily document and share with a team member. Next, we want to have clear expectations. There's nothing worse than working with a service provider and you find out halfway through that there's quite a bit of work that they need us to do, but it wasn't communicated to us in the onboarding process or even in the discovery call process, right? So we want to make it really clear what we expect from the client, but also what they can expect from us. What does the next point, right? Clear communication. What does communication look like in this relationship? Another good part of communication is being clear on the price. Putting your prices on your website can be super beneficial. I know for me, as a really, really busy entrepreneur, if I'm going to hire a Dubsado setup specialist and I'm between 3 different options and 2 people have their price on the website and 1 person doesn't, I am most likely not going to pursue the one that doesn't have the price listed, because that's a whole extra step for me. So make it easy for people to work with you, right? And then lastly, clear deliverables. What exactly can the client expect at the end? What tangible things are they going to walk away with? Again, this is good for both your clients and your team members, because across the board, it just gets everyone on the same page and eliminates a lot of confusion. So this is how you can begin to make it easy for people to work with you. Okay, so who remembers the Popeyes chicken sandwich? So about 2 years ago, Popeyes came out with a chicken sandwich. It was, a normal thing. Every fast food chain has a chicken sandwich. Well, someone, a celebrity something, did a review on this sandwich, and overnight it became a sensation. People were lined up around the drive-thru, out into the street to get this sandwich. I personally drove to 5 different locations, couldn't find it anywhere because they were all sold out, right? And so what happened here was Popeyes put out a product, they received reviews, and customers responded, right? They were excited. They could not wait to get this sandwich, but they weren't ready for the influx, right? They essentially had to close their doors. Restaurants everywhere had signs on the drive-thru saying sold out, sorry. Some of the locations were closing down early. It was absolute chaos. And so this is kind of what happens to us sometimes, right? We create this new Dubsado setup package. We're so excited to share this with the world. And then we put it out in hopes that people are going to respond, right? In hopes that 20 people are going to want to work with us. But if that happened, would you be ready for it? Would you be ready for the rush that you're asking for, right? So apply this to your online business or agency. When you lay that foundation, you're going to be ready for big business. Now, does this mean that you need to have, 20 people on your team right now. No, but having those clearly defined processes is going to help you be able to hire quickly. When you need to make decisions, you're going to have in-house ready to go. So that's just a little story analogy that I like to share because I think it really drives the point home of having that scalable foundation. So how can we begin to do this? How can we begin to get proactive about the tasks on our plate and begin to outsource them, right? So this is my task matrix. You can grab this on my website. This is a tool that I use to help my clients really begin to map out what their day-to-day looks like. And so there are 4 quadrants to this matrix. So essentially what you're going to do is first, you're going to brain dump everything that you do day to day in your business, right? Once you've done that, you're going to categorize it into these 4 quadrants. So in this first quadrant, you're going to put all the things that you like doing that you also do well. So for me, I love, speaking engagements. I love working with my clients. I love coaching. I love being, present with my community. Those are all things that I enjoy that I also do well. Second is the things that I don't like doing, but I do them well. So this is kind of like, if push comes to shove, I can do it, but I prefer to not. So an example of this would be like making these slide presentations. I love presenting, I love speaking, but I don't necessarily love putting the slides together. The third quadrant is the things that you like doing, but don't do well. Now, this is the toxic zone, right? This is where we're spending time, but we probably shouldn't be spending time. So for me, this is like all things social media engagement, right? I like doing it. I love, responding to comments and doing that kind of thing, but it's not really a skill set of mine because I don't have a lot of strategy with it. I end up spending hours upon hours on social media. And then the last one is the things that you don't like doing well, the things that you don't like to do, and you also don't do them well. So for me, this is all things tech. This is all things, setting up integrations and automations and email sequences and all of that, right? And so once you fill this out, you're going to be able to take a step back and look at it from a bird's eye view, and you'll be able to see like, wow, I'm actually spending a lot of time doing things that aren't really in my wheelhouse, right? A lot of my tasks are in this bottom half of the quadrant. And so what this looks like is now we can begin to figure out, well, who do I need to hire based on this information? So starting with quadrant 4, this is where you're gonna want to delegate these things first, right? Then you want to think about, well, what tasks do I need to eliminate altogether? What could be automated with the use of a workflow? And then based on the team that you already have, if you have help on your team already, are there some tasks on here that I could easily, delegate to people that I already have? Also thinking about that vision, right? Your ideal work week. How can we use this task matrix to help us get there? If there's only 3 things on here that we don't do in our vision, how can we make sure that those things get outsourced? And then lastly, as the CEO, we want to be spending our time closest to the money. So if you like managing your Pinterest and you also do it well, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's something that you should be doing as the CEO, right? But maybe that's something that we would like to be able to outsource further down the line. So how can Dubsado help you with getting some of this data together? So first of all, you can use the income report feature to kind of get an idea of where you're making most of your money, right? Where is your revenue coming from? So for me, it's VIP days. When it comes to Dubsado, all of my VIP days come through this platform, right? And so I can easily see, okay, I spend a lot of time on VIP days. What aspects of this offer can I use my team for? Can my team help me with the onboarding process? Can my team help me with the offboarding process? Can my team help me with preparing for the VIP day itself, right? So using this tool can kind of help you get an idea of where your time is being spent. And then you can also use the time tracker tool. So I would recommend using this for a couple of weeks to really get an idea of what you're spending the most time on. And then we can look at this report and even use that in comparison to the task matrix to figure out, okay, here are some of the main things that I want to get off of my plate. So now that you feel more clear on the tasks that you need to delegate, how do you know when it's actually time to make that hire, right? So there are 2 things that you want to consider. One, maybe approaching capacity in your business. So what this can look like is turning away clients, right? You're the waitlist queen, waitlist king. You always have people waiting to work with you. you and your team are starting to feel burned out, right? Not really enjoying work as much. And then everyone is working more hours than budgeted. If you're a solopreneur, this could be for you as well, right? Maybe you're working more hours than budgeted. Maybe your significant other or your friends are wondering, like, when are you going to put down the laptop? When are you going to come hang out with us? The second one is hitting a ceiling in your business. So maybe you are very successful, right? But your revenue can't get past a certain amount. Maybe you've been stuck at $10,000 a month for a long time. Your team is feeling stagnant, uninspired, underperforming. Maybe you have clients complaining because we're simply just not providing the same caliber of service that we were before. That's a sign that you could be hitting a ceiling, right? You're not really feeling it anymore. So if you identify with either of these, then it could be time to grow your team. So now, how do I do that? So if you have team members already, you're going to want to assess the strengths and weaknesses of the people that you have. Because again, going back to that task matrix, there may be some things that you can, have people do based on where you're at currently. Second would be, identifying the gaps in your business based on that task matrix and looking at the matrix as a whole, especially quadrants 3 and 4, and seeing what common trends do you see, right? Are there several client communication related tasks on there that we want to outsource? Maybe that looks like having like a client success manager or a client fulfillment assistant or something of that nature, right? Is it a lot of marketing tasks? Maybe that looks like having a social media manager. If you have a team, right, but a lot of the things on this list are around the idea of decision making, maybe it's time to have some leaders on your team that can make some decisions on your behalf. Once you get clear on the role, then we need to figure out, well, how much can we afford to pay them? I always recommend, kind of consulting with a money manager, a CFO of some sort, but the general rule of thumb is about 30% of your monthly revenue. You want to keep your payroll under that amount. Now, this does fluctuate depending on your business entity and all of that. So definitely think through that and consult with a professional. And then we can even weigh the pros and cons of going the contractor route or the full-time employee route. Now, for you as a service provider, potentially as a Dubsado setup specialist, or maybe you run some sort of system setup agency, client fulfillment will most likely be the most impactful hire for you first. And what this means is hiring another you, essentially, that knows how to do the same setups that you're doing, that you can bring in, train on your process so that you can increase your capacity. A lot of times our mind automatically goes to administrative support. We automatically think, oh, I need a VA. I need someone who can check my emails. When oftentimes we can just, create some systems around how often we check our email, right? Create some systems around how people should be communicating with us. So definitely think on that more, but I generally see client fulfillment assistants or something of the sorts being the first hire. Now, maybe that won't be their title. Maybe it'll be Dubsado setup specialist, right? But definitely someone who can lighten the load. So let's do a quick recap, right? So there are a few things that you're going to need in order to scale your service-based business. So the first thing that you need is a CEO vision and a powerful, unshakable mindset. Beginning to build a team around your service-based business is one of the most vulnerable things you'll do as a business owner, and you want to be clear on where you're going. Second is a business model that you can grow upon, right? Having services that are in alignment with what you want to offer, with what you enjoy offering, right? And not necessarily just things that people are asking you for. The awareness to know when it's time to delegate, hire, and outsource. Sometimes we wear the solopreneur hat as this badge of honor for way too long. And what's happening is we're stunting the growth of our own business because we're unwilling to ask for help. And then lastly, we need clear communication between you, your clients, and your team, right? So again, going back to the slide where we talked about making it easy to work with you, having all of those things in place is going to position you to be able to truly scale your business without the frustration of a lot of confusion, right? So these are 4 of the things that you're going to need to be able to scale your business. And overall, being able to build a team is one of the most rewarding things that you can do. You just want to make sure that you have your ducks in a row prior to starting that process. So I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. I truly, truly enjoyed it myself. I would love to be able to stay connected with you. You can find me on Instagram at _Tatiana O'Hara. You can also visit me at www.tatianaohara.co. That is where I do all of my business. But I wish you the best of luck in your team building endeavors, and I hope that you found today's information helpful.